Welcome to the In a Nutshell podcast with myself, Andrew Davis, and my co-host, Chris Branch. The 10-minute daily podcast where we take out all of the techie stuff around generative AI and focus on what the everyday person, marketer, and content creator wants to hear. Now, we've only got 10 minutes, only 10 minutes per day. So we can only focus on one particular area. And as it's Friday, as you know, it's the news. It's just really summarizing in a nutshell what's been happening over the last 7 days in the world of generative AI. So there's a lot that's been happening, but I would say it's been one of the more quiet weeks. And I think it's just because Christmas is coming up, etc. So I think that's the main reason why. So it's kind of quieting down compared to what it's usually like, but it's still been busy. But I think the first, maybe second week of January, get ready for a whole bunch of new stuff that's coming. So Chris, what's been happening this week? What's been happening? What stood out to you?
So, a few new platforms that I'm actually not that familiar with, but I'm excited to try, are showing new updates. So, first of all, we had Pika Labs make an announcement, and anybody that's unfamiliar with Pika Labs, like I was, they are similar to Runway, and they do generative video, and they do both image to video, video to video, and text to video. It looks like their text to video is the strongest at the moment, so I'm keen to try that out, but it's on a wait list. But that was an announcement and a viral video that I saw in LinkedIn. So interesting to see a new player in the video realm.
Oh, that's interesting because, I think that as we were saying on one of our podcasts, I think it was yesterday's podcast, actually, we was talking about image generations and all the different platforms. But with video, a lot of the image ones are kind of incorporating video, and the videos are incorporating images. So I think we're going to see a mixture of like both kind of enter this space. So obviously you mentioned there some updates in some of the platforms, some of the features there, which is interesting. A news story that I heard this week, this is pretty weird actually, and it's there was a study showed that ChatGPT performs worse when it's December, or when it thinks it's December, than when it thinks it's May.
Wow.
And they actually think it's because of what's called the AI winter break hypothesis, which suggests that training data taught AI models that it's normal to do less work over the holidays. So AI is actually thinking, oh, it's coming up to Christmas, it's coming up to the festive periods. Let's not give you as good as information. And that was a new study that came out. So I thought that was quite interesting, which kind of goes into something else. I don't know if you heard about this. Came out a couple of weeks ago, where if you offer, this is just on GPT, if you offer it a tip, so if I was to give you a $20 tip, could you give me some more information? Actually, you were getting better results if you tip. It's crazy. It really is starting to become human.
Wow, that's hilarious. At least it's getting like our sense of the world. And that's a good segue into the next story that I saw, again from a video platform called Runway. This time they're introducing what they call general world models. And I think this is going to be a massive trend. My prediction for 2024, although we'll do an episode on predictions soon, so look out for that. And that is that they're going to be feeding it all sorts of stuff, not just text, but audio and video and images. And it's going to get a much wider world view, than just being trained on a corpus of text. So fascinating to see what those results come out with, when it's trained on multimodal things and it can produce multimodal things. Talking about becoming more human, that's a lot closer than just text.
Do you think that when it comes to, because you talked about it, I think, was it Runway that's from?
That's Runway's general world models, yeah.
So obviously Runway's kind of know what Runway ML is known for videos, and what you were saying before with the other platform and Pika Labs, etc. Do you feel that we're going to be more multimodal? So a lot of the video ones is going to have images and text and audio, and the audio ones are going to include. So all of a sudden, where you kind of specialized before, it's going to be more like a mixture of different ones, multimodal.
Yeah, they're going to all become more generalistic, the same way that ChatGPT has DALL-E integrated and can do images and vision and stuff like that. I think that's really setting the standard for a lot of these models, for sure.
Interesting. Okay, so another big player in the game, especially towards the end of the year, and I think, and what we've been saying on many different episodes, is when the big boys enter, and 2024 will be when the big boys enter. Instagram. So they've introduced Gen AI powered background editing tools. So essentially it's a tool that will let users change the background to their images through prompts for stories. So, for example, I could take a picture here of me here, and then I could say on a red carpet, being chased by dinosaurs, but surrounded by puppies. And it will add all of the stuff going on in the background. So that's something that Instagram will be introducing very soon
Wow.
to its the background editing tool, so the AI stuff. However, and this is where it gets interesting, because there is a trend on TikTok that you can do which changes, well, doesn't change the background. So what it is you take a picture and you use video editing site CapCut. So CapCut's one of the most popular video editing stuff. Put it on TikTok. And what they've got is there's a particular template that uses AI to expand the picture and guess your surroundings. And what's worrying is that it's getting it very, very accurate. So it's almost me taking a picture here, expanding it and say, hey, I know exactly where you are. You're here in this town, blah, blah, blah. So it's, and this is what it can do now. So that's quite scary. So you could take a picture, might not know what's going on in the background, but AI can pretty much work out what would be going on in the background and your location, etc. So that came out recently.
I wonder when we'll see the first court evidence where someone's, filled in some background of a photo to guess what, where it was and geolocate it or something.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. The first person that's going to end up going to jail because of something that happened in Gen AI. So yeah,
for sure. So another new tool that I'd not really played around with yet, and I'll have to spell it out, is Krea, but spelled KREA.ai. They're messing around with some new upscale and enhancers, but I noticed they also have this real-time generation, which is something that we've been touching on. And this is another feature that I predict is going to be massive in 2024. You talked about it in yesterday's episode, where basically as you're typing, you add a hat appears, and then you add something else appears. But this idea of real-time generation, either using doodles or using text and writing sentences, feels like it is a useful workflow differentiator. So another tool in that department, it looks like, and I'm going to have to mess around with that, see if it's got any unique features.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. The one I spoke about yesterday, I think was called Clip Drop. That does the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And I think I've played around with that, and that's I actually was quite impressed, actually. Especially a lot of the time when I, myself, Chris, we say we're impressed, a lot of it is to do with we see where it potentially could go.
Yeah.
It might not be that impressive right now, but if you look at the potential, you kind of see, well, a few updates, this is going to be really, really powerful. ZeniMax. So ZeniMax is a studio part of Microsoft, and they developed the video game The Elder Scrolls Online. They have reached an agreement with a union on AI use in the workplace. Now, this deal is the first when it comes to video games industry, and it includes Microsoft informing the union about AI's impact on work and bargaining impacts upon requests. So again, if they need a request, they will be able to provide it. So it's looking at 6 principles, and it's to do with fairness, reliability, safety, privacy, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. I think that's more than 6, but I think that's about 7. But it's interesting because what's happening now is, and you're starting to see regulations that's going across generally most things, but also now quite specific industries. And this is kind of the first in the video games industry when it comes to what can and can't be done, or being transparent with the use of AI.
Yeah, so there was another news story, but I think we'll have to make a full episode on this, and that's that the EU has finally come to some AI regulation standards, and I think there's quite a lot to be unpacked there. So just the announcement is that we're seeing the first regulation in the EU, so be aware of that if you're living in the EU.
Yeah, exactly. So in a nutshell, that is pretty much the news for this week. But also, this is going to be our last episode of the year. Next it's Christmas time. Even though we've got a couple more days before Christmas. Chris is a new dad, so he's want him to go out and enjoy the time with his little one. I've got a little 2-year-old, but I'm off to do some work, some AI training in Rwanda, actually. Doing some stuff for Rwanda. So then it's going to be Christmas. So what we'll be doing, we'll be back in the new year, really strong, still 10 minutes a day, still focused on the generative AI news that the everyday person content creator and marketer wants to hear. So everyone, thank you for listening so far. I think this is almost our 60th episode. Can you believe that, how quickly it's gone? And we wish you all a very happy festive period.